Hi, I'm Kelly from kellyjjewellery. Today I'm going to be showing you how to make this cute pendant. So if you fancy just sitting down and relaxing and doing a bit of weaving with me, this is the one for you. Okay, let's get to it. Oh yes, and I've put a list of everything you'll need in the description below. This pendant you'll need 21 gauge wire, which is 0.7, and you can go a size up if you want to, so you can use 0.8, which is 20 gauge. I'm just going for a slightly thinner wire today because it's a little bit smaller than what I'd normally make. So I've cut 5 lengths at 9 inches, which is 23 centimetres. I hope you haven't caused any confusion already. I normally use 0.8 and I normally use, which is 20 gauge, and I normally use 28 gauge weaving wire, which is 0.315. But today I've gone down a step just because it's smaller. I thought I'd work with smaller wires. So my weaving wire is 0.25 millimeters, which is 30 gauge. I've wound some onto my bobbin, but I'm not sure how much I'm going to use, so I'll put the amount on the screen. A little teardrop cab, so mine is 20 millimeters by 12. Got a little moonstone today, and you'll need a couple of little beads. Mine are 2 millimeter. Just use whatever you have handy. So tools, I've got my pliers, round nose pliers, cutters, nylon pliers, and I've got some bail pliers. If you don't have nylon pliers, don't worry, I just like having these handy for straightening wires, flattening weaves. If you don't have bail pliers, don't worry, because you can just bend the bail over your finger, or like a small pencil or a slim pen or something. Wire to the length that I have, and we're going to start, I'd say about 3 inches from the beginning of those wires. So we'll wrap 3 times around the bottom wire. And then we'll go around 2 wires. So I've gone over the second. Then we go around 3. So I've gone over the third. Gracie snoring already. Come up between the bottom 2. And we're going to go around 2 wires. So I've gone over the third. Then come up between the bottom 2 wires and go over 3. So I've gone over the 4th wire. Come up between the 2nd and 3rd wire. And we'll go over the top. Come up between the bottom 2. And we go around 3. Come up between the bottom 2 and we go around 2. Under the bottom wire we go around 3. And then under the bottom we go around 2. And then we finish that weave with 3 wraps around the bottom wire. First you weave together between each repeat. I like to flatten mine with nylon pliers. If you don't have any, don't worry. Is it going to focus for me? There we go. So that's our repeat. So we're going to repeat that weave to go down the side, the one side of the stone. So I'll show you how many I'm going to do, and then you can adjust it to the size of your stone. So I'll just go over that weave again for you. So we go around the bottom 2 wires, then we go around the bottom 3, come up between the bottom 2, we go around 2 wires, come up between the bottom 2, we go around 3, come up between the middle 2, the 2nd and 3rd wires, and we're going to wrap around the top 3 wires. Then you come up between the bottom 2 again, and we're going to go around 3. Come up between the bottom 2, and we're going to go around 2. under the bottom wire we go around 3 wires, under the bottom wire we go around 2, and then we go 3 wraps around the bottom wire. Always push it together between repeats, it'll keep it all nice and tidy. Cute little weave for you. So to work out how many repeats we're going to need, this weave is going to go down the side here, and I need the top to go around the top of the stone, so we can shape the top around the stone. Before you do, just make sure that you've got a good bit of length this side. What was it, 3 inches? I think mine might have slipped a bit. You don't want your wires to have pulled through and gone a bit too short. So that weave needs to reach sort of centrally on the stone. So that's got to be across the top section. So if I bend these up, then we can see what we're doing better. And adjust your weave, tip your weave back so it kind of cups around the stone. And then when we get to the bottom there, we're going to take each wire one at a time, and we're going to bend it up, and then this will go around the other side of the stone. So if we get the first wire right, then we can match all the other wires up to it, and it needs to sit to the front of the stone so that it's going to hold your stone in place. And we want that wire to come around. And once that is the right shape, we can then add all the other wires to match that one. I'm going to just tip it a little bit more, bend it a little bit more, so my top wire is the right shape. So all these other wires have also need to come round. So I'm going to grip this one a little bit lower, and then the next one a little bit lower, and the next one, you get the idea. And then we can adjust the wires to get them to a nice angle and shape. So I'm happy with my wire shaping, and I've sneaked another repeat in there because I had a bit of a gap at the bottom, so I'm happy with that now. So shape your wires up. It might be tidier if you grip the wire and then bend it with your finger up rather than bending it with the pliers, but give it a go. Let me know how you get on. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to do the weave repeats on this side up here. So to get to that position, I'm going to bring the wire up, and I'm just going to wrap a few times around that middle wire. This one at the top here, I'm going to wrap a few times around that, then I'll bring the wire back down and do the other side. I'll show. So I've added wraps around the higher wire there to get me over to this side. Now I just need to spread these wires out a little bit so I can weave on them. And I'm going to do the same weave up this side. So I'm going to bring my wire down to the bottom here, and we're going to start with the 3 wraps around the bottom wire. And try and position your weave in the same place on this side, so you've got a nice gap in the middle, and then we're going to weave up here. So just do the same weave as we just did. I'm sure you'll remember it by now. I've done so many of them. I think it's quite a pretty weave. If it's getting on your nerves because it's a bit all over the place, you can always just do a different weave instead. It's up to you. And as you go, keep pushing that weave together to keep it all nice and tidy as you go. So I've got 10 repeats on each side. So I need to finish this one with a few wraps around that bottom wire. And then I need to shape this to go around the other side of the stone there. You can probably hear Gracie snoring. So you need to push all the weave together really tight because it has moved a little bit. And then shape it around the same. Bringing the wires up at the top. And then the wires will all meet at the top there. And check that shape against your stone. Again, you don't want your stone to come through the front. The stone needs to just sit in there quite nicely. I really like how that weave's turned out. I think it was worth the trouble. So make sure that the stone won't come through to the front and it sits nicely in there. So I've got 10 repeats on each side. And next we're going to weave straight across the top. So I need to cut off that bit of weaving wire. Put the stone to one side for now. So what I'm going to do to make it less wires, I'm going to pull the 2 front wires forwards, so you're left with 8 wires. And we're going to weave across all of those. So what we're going to do, I'm just going to spread my wires out a little bit so it's a little easier to weave. Ignoring the front 2, so we're just going to weave across those wires across the back. So we've got 8 wires. We're going to go around 2, come up between. We're going to do that all the way up. So you go around the next 2 and you come up in between. So we keep going over 2, come up in between, and when you get to the middle you go straight over, come up in between, and then keep going over 2, come up in between, over 2, come up in between those wires, and then over the top 2, come up in between those wires. And then on the way back down we go around each wire. So we come up underneath the next wire. Can you see what I mean? So we go around each wire on the way back down. There's a lot of wires, so it's a bit tricky to see where you are. But just go around each wire all the way down and around the second one, around the bottom one, and we've got to push all that down. I'm not going to use my nylon pliers because it's a bit tricky to get to. I'll push it down with my pliers. So that's our repeat for our bail. And I think what I'm going to do with the wires is I'm going to pull them apart a little bit so they kind of shape a bit of a V, not much, so that as I weave up the wires I'll get a little bit of a gap there in the middle. So keep doing that weave and I'll show you what I mean. So when we get to this point and you've done quite a bit of weave, we'll shape the top bail a little. So grab your wires together and bring them in so you've got this diamond shape, and then hold the wires where they cross and we bend them out. So as you weave this next part, the weave is going to keep sliding up the wire. We just got to keep pulling it back down. So keep doing the same weave that you was doing before. Only hold it down as you go. So keep pushing it down and keep holding it down as you go. And still keep going and still keep pushing it down and keep going until you reach the top here where the wires come together. So I've kept weaving till I've got to the top there. So we're going to take the bail pliers, sort of position them centrally there, and then bring the bail, the weave, over and down the back. At the back, we need to bend the wires out a little so that they meet when we push it together. So we must make sure we finish off that weave with a couple of wraps around one of the wires, and then we're going to take the middle two wires and post them through the gap there, so they come up the middle. So you pinch it here, part those wires, pinch it together, and those two wires should come up nice and flat. So pull those middle wires out to the sides. I'll pull these two out the way for now. Bend the weave a little bit so it tips back. And we've got 3 wires on each side at the back for now. So let's carry on with the front. This wire, if you've finished off your weave with 3 wraps, we can cut that wire off and we can use that on the front. So take these 2 wires that go out and scoop them over like so. So we've got like a circular shape in the middle. These two wires are really getting on my nerves. And then where the wires cross, scoop them out. And then these two wires have to go up the middle. Now I've bent them quite a bit, so I'm just going to correct those wires first and get them back in line. And then I'm going to scoop the wires straight up the middle there. So they're going to go up and then sit between those two there like that. And where they part here, I'm going to pop a little bead on. So I've just made like a pretty shape up the bail. So grab a little bit of weaving wire. I've lost one, I think it's gone on the floor. You need just a little bit of weaving wire just to add a bead at the bottom here. So take your weaving wire, wrap it around a few times. Slide it down, pop your bead on there. And then we're going to go around the wire on the other side. If you go around the bottom of the wire that way, then you'll have the wraps at the bottom of the bead like you have on this side. If you go and just wrap around the wire, then these wraps will be above, which is fine if that's what you want. I'm going to do it so my wraps are below, and wrap a few times around that side. So we got that little bead there. Cut the weaving wire at both ends. Press those little cut ends down. And here, where all the wires are together, I'm just going to put a little bit of a weave across there. I know it seems like I'm making a fuss. You can do whatever you want with these wires. You can leave this part out if you like. I just think it looks pretty. So wrap a few times around the right wire. Slide it down to where the wires meet. And we'll do the weave that we did over all of the wires earlier. So we go around two and we come up between. Then we go around two, we come up between, go around two, come up between. So I've gone around the top wire. Then I've come up between the two, I'll go around the third wire. Come up between the bottom two, I go around the second wire and then around the bottom wire. I'm sliding that down with my pliers because I can get them in there, and I'll repeat that again. I'll finish that weave with a few wraps. Oh dear. With a few wraps around that right hand wire, the bottom wire. I'll cut that weaving wire off at both ends. down the little cut ends. And then we just want to look at matching up the shape. And I'm going to bring the top wires out too, to finish at the top corners there. So it looks like I'm going to finish off the bell before I even add the stone. So I'm going to add a little bead at the top. I think I'm going to position my bead onto the wire centrally. And I want the bead to sit up high. And then I'm going to wrap a few times around this side, and I'm going to wrap a few times around the other side so that my wraps are above the bead on both sides. Cut those ends, press them around. Might as well finish off the bail. I'm going to send these wires around the bail through to the other side. You can cut them off shorter if you want to, and then post them through. It might be easier. To thread the wires around inside the bail, make sure you keep an eye on the shaping on the wires on the front. Press the wires against the bail, get it all nice and central, and then bring the wires over the bail a little. Cut them off very short and press them around the sides there so they grip onto the bail. And then do a similar thing with these. So post those wires through and have a look at the shape of those wires. I've gone for something a bit different today. You never do know how it's going to look until you reach this point. So I've ended up with one wire below, which I'm going to pull over the front there, and one wire above. I wonder if I can pull this one above as well. Oh yeah, best if they go above. I adjusted the top ones a little bit. That will all come out when I oxidise it at the end. You'll be able to see that detail so much better. So now we need to add the stone and check the shape. Adjust the shape so it grips around the stone, because it hasn't had much time in there, has it, to be honest? And then at the back we spread out these wires, and all we'll do is bring the wires down and attach them around the edge of that weave there. So to finish off the back, what I've done is I've pressed the weave around the stone and shaped it a bit so it's nice and snug. At the back, I've spread the wires out, so we've now got 6. And I'm going to weave across all of the wires here, just to hold them together a bit lower down, and I'll do this same big weave that we did before. So I'm keeping the stone in for now. Just want to tie all the wires together really. So I'm going to go around 2 wires, come up in between, and I'll do that all the way up. And then on the way back down, I'll go around each wire individually, like we did with the big weave. I hope you've all had a lovely Christmas. It's nice to get back into videos, back into making after all the craziness. So I think I'll do another repeat of that so it's all definitely held in nice and tight. These, just tying the wires together for now, don't worry about the stone. So that's 2 repeats, that'll hold the wires together. So now I'm going to take the outer wires and I'm going to leave those, and I'm going to weave over just the 4, doing the same weave. So I'm going up 2 and coming up between, and then I'll go around each wire on the way back down. I'll do that again, I think. Please mention me when sharing your finished work online. Please don't share images of the back, as it gives all my little design secrets away. I would prefer people came here and watched my videos rather than make the work from your pictures, if that makes sense. So thank you to everybody for mentioning me and not sharing the back in advance. So now I'm going to leave out 2 again, and I'm just going to go around the middle 2 wires. My stone's going to keep trying to pop out. So just going around the middle 2, same weave, go around 2 wires, go around the top wire, go around the bottom wire, 2 wires, top wire, bottom wire. So I've done a few more repeats of that weave over the 2 wires, and I'm going to finish that with a few wraps around a single wire. Cut your weaving wire from the beginning and the end, and don't forget to press down those little cut ends. Next we'll attach the stone down, so we'll attach all these wires down. So try and get it all nice and central, and make sure your stone is in place. Looking at your middle wires to start with, we'll fix those down first. So what we're going to do, and take a little bit of weaving wire, just a little bit, about 6 inches, 15 centimetres. We'll attach to one of these wires. And then we need to attach this wire to the weave. So take the end and go, can't catch it, and go through the weave. Don't go too close to the end because we don't want to see the wire, but somewhere along there, go through the weave. And get your wire through, because I'm struggling because my weave is quite tight. What you can do is take something small, like a pin. A pin is ideal. I haven't got a pin at the moment, so I'm using the pointy end of these scissors and just wriggle a little gap into that weave so you can get your wire through. It should make it a little bit easier to go through. Oh, much easier. So do that if you can't get through. So what we're going to do, we're going to go through the weave, and then come over the side and go around the wire. And we need to do it a few times so that that wire is held down quite firmly against the weave there. So go through a couple of times. If I just went through, I don't want to go through the same place. Oh, I can go next to it. And then I'm going to wrap around a couple of times. And then we can cut the wire at both ends. Press down those little cut ends and we can cut this wire too. If we attach all the wires, and then we can curl them to finish them. Onto this wire, try and level it up so it's the same kind of shape, and join it on that side there in the same way. So when you've joined those two, then focus on your next two inner wires. Make sure again that it's all nice and straight, the stone is in place, and attach those two wires down to the weave in the same way. So I've joined those 2 points. I'll find my cutters, I've lost it. I've cut the little weaving wire ends. I'll cut those wires off quite short. I've just noticed I've joined one a lot higher. My join is right up here. I'm not going to redo it. I should have done it down here. I'm not going to redo it because it's a nightmare to get the wire through there. I have been using the pointy scissors to get the wire through. So adjust your top wires to fill those gaps wherever they are. I've got a little end there as well. And we'll join those top 2 wires too. So I've joined those last 2 wires. I found it a bit easier if you make a gap. So choose where you want it to be, make your gap, and then wrap it a few times and come over and push it through. Pull it really tight, wrap a few times, and then go back over this way. If you can get through that way, you can do that as well if you want to. It'll look exactly the same. It's just a little bit easier if you can see what I'm doing. And then I'm going to cut those nice and short. I'm going to have some little tiny curls. So that's all my back joined, and the stone is now secured in place. So now we just need to curl these wires and we're done. Just going to make this one a little bit smaller. So that's held in nice and tidy, and make sure you close all your loops so they don't snag on anything. So I just need to run and oxidise mine, and I'll show you when it's done. So there we have it, finished. I've oxidised mine. If you'd like help oxidising yours, I've done a few videos now on oxidising and aftercare. I'll put links in the description below. So thanks for watching, and thanks to my Patreons for your continued support. And I couldn't do this without you guys. I'll put your names on the screen, probably at the front of the video, I think. Anyway, so I'd love to see what you all made. Come and share it with me. All my links are below if you're on Facebook or Instagram, or if you're on Patreon. And I'd love to see what you made. Thanks for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed sitting and doing a bit of weaving. See you all soon. Bye.